My brother-in-law's name was on the reservation. It was not supposed to be, but there it was, bold and confident on the hostess tablet, and the look on his face when I walked through the lobby doors told me everything I needed to know. He had not made a mistake, he had made a move. And by the time I handed my coat to the front desk attendant at the Hargrove Suites, I had already decided exactly how this night was going to end for him. My husband Caleb and I had been planning our 5th anniversary trip for 7 months. 7 months of spreadsheets, safe credit card points, and saying no to every spontaneous weekend getaway so we could afford 4 nights at the most beautiful boutique hotel in Asheville, North Carolina. I had called ahead to arrange a private chef's tasting dinner on Saturday night, the kind of dinner where you sit in a converted wine cellar with stone walls and candlelight, and the chef comes out between courses to explain what you're eating. 12 courses. 4 hours. A reservation that required a non-refundable deposit and a 2-month wait-off waitlist. I had booked the corner suite on the top floor with the mountain view and the soaking tub by the window. I had packed a dress I bought on sale 8 months ago and never wore because I was saving it for this exact night. What I had not packed was a plan for my brother-in-law showing up with his girlfriend and 2 of their friends and presenting it to me like a gift. Let me back up. My brother-in-law, I will call him my husband's brother, is 39 years old and has operated his entire adult life on the assumption that someone else will cover whatever he cannot. Not because he is broke, though his finances are a disaster I have spent years trying not to know about. He earns decent money in commercial real estate. The problem is that every dollar he earns evaporates within days on things he calls investments and Caleb calls devolutions. He has borrowed money from us 3 separate times. The first time, 4 years ago, it was $2,000 for a car repair emergency. We found out 6 weeks later that he had taken his girlfriend to Vegas that same weekend. When Caleb confronted him, he said the car was fixed and the Vegas trip was a separate thing, as if the money had no memory of where it came from. The second time, he needed $1,500 to avoid a gap in his health insurance. That one I actually believed until I saw the charges on the credit card statement. He accidentally texted Caleb instead of his accountant. Supplements, a juicer, a standing desk. The third time was 8 months ago, and it was $3,000, and the story involved a contractor who had gone off the grid, and a deposit that was unrecoverable, and a deadline that would cost him everything. We gave it to him because Caleb's mother sat at our kitchen table and cried, and used the word family 11 times in 40 minutes. I counted. I was sitting across from her with my hands folded in my lap and my jaw locked, and I counted every single one. We have never been paid back, not once, not a dollar. So when I walked into the Hargrove Suites and saw him standing in the lobby with his girlfriend and 2 people I had never met in my life, smiling at me with the specific confidence of someone who has never once faced a consequence, I did not feel surprised. I felt the particular exhaustion of someone who has been right about a person for years and is finally about to be proven correct in the worst possible way. He spread his arms wide. "Surprise," he said. "Caleb told me which hotel. I figured we would make a whole weekend of it." Caleb had not told him which hotel. I knew this because I was standing next to Caleb and I watched his face go the color of the marble floor. His girlfriend, a woman I have met maybe 4 times and who has never once looked directly at me when she speaks, was already moving toward the front desk. The 2 friends, a couple, were rolling luggage. They had luggage. They had driven here, booked nothing, and shown up with luggage. I excused myself. I told Caleb I needed a minute. I walked to the restroom off the lobby and stood at the sink and looked at myself in the mirror for 30 seconds. Then I pulled out my phone and texted the hotel's private concierge line, which I had saved when I made the original reservation. I typed 2 sentences. Then I walked back out. Here is what you need to understand about me to understand what happened next. I am a licensed property manager. I oversee a portfolio of 42 short-term vacation rentals across 3 states. I spend my days negotiating with vendors, managing guest disputes, coordinating with local zoning boards, and talking property owners off ledges when their bookings drop. I have handled situations that would make most people's heads explode, and I have handled them quietly, professionally, and without leaving a mark. My brother-in-law has known this about me for 6 years. He has watched me navigate every crisis that has come through our family with the same calm. He assumed, I think, that the calm was weakness, that it was politeness, that I was, at my core, someone who would swallow the disruption and smile through it, because making things smooth was simply what I did. He had never considered that smoothing things over is a skill, and that skills can be turned in any direction. When I walked back out to the lobby, my mother-in-law had materialized. I do not know how. She was not supposed to be in Asheville, but there she was, standing next to her youngest son with her coat still on and her eyes already brimming with the preemptive tears she keeps loaded and ready like a weapon. She had driven 3 hours. She had done it on purpose. She took my arm and pulled me toward the window near the entrance, away from the front desk, away from Caleb. "I know this is your trip," she said. "I know that. But he has been going through so much. He just needed a break. He said he would just join you for dinner tonight and the rest of the weekend you two would have to yourselves." I looked at her for a long moment. "He booked a room?" I asked. She hesitated. He was going to look into it when he got here. So he drove 4 hours to a sold-out boutique hotel on a holiday weekend with 3 other people and no reservation. She pressed her lips together. "Marion, come on." "My name is not Marion," I said. "And what you're asking me to do is buy dinner for 4 people who were not invited at a restaurant I waited 2 months for and then figure out where they're sleeping on a night when this hotel has been fully booked since January." "You always do this," she said. Her voice dropped into the register she uses when she wants to sound wounded. "You make everything so transactional. This is family." I had heard that sentence in some variation so many times that it had stopped landing. I looked at her hands gripping the strap of her purse and I thought, very clearly, about the $3,000 sitting somewhere in a vacuum, about the Vegas trip, about the juicer, about sitting at my own kitchen table counting the word family like I was documenting evidence. "I'll see you inside," I said. I walked to the front desk. The manager on duty, a woman named Adele, knew my face. I had booked through this property before for client stays, twice in the last year alone. I leaned across the counter and kept my voice low and completely level. "The private tasting dinner tonight," I said. "I need to confirm it is still exclusive to the original reservation. My party of 2. Adele nodded. "Of course, your reservation is for 2 guests in the cellar dining room. It has always been for 2. If anyone else attempts to join that reservation or asks to be added to the check, I need you to decline and let Chef's team know. Any additional guests would need to book separately, and I believe the cellar is fully committed tonight." "It is," she said. "We have been at capacity since February." "Perfect," I smiled. "And one more thing, I understand there may be some walk-ins looking for rooms tonight. Could you let me know the current availability situation?" She looked at her screen. "We are completely full as of this morning. We do have a partnership with a motor inn about 6 miles out that we can refer overflow guests to." I thanked her. I straightened up. I went to find Caleb. I found him in the corner of the lobby in a conversation with his brother that had the tight, airless quality of 2 people trying to resolve something before a bomb goes off. I touched Caleb's arm. He looked at me with the expression of a man who was genuinely, honestly sorry. I squeezed his hand once, which meant, "I know, I've got it." My brother-in-law turned to me with the smile he saves for when he wants something. "So," he said, "what time is this fancy dinner?" 7, I said, "but it's a private reservation and the cellar only seats 2. They can't accommodate walk-ins." The smile stayed on his face, but something shifted behind his eyes. "Come on," he said. "You can't ask them to squeeze in a couple more chairs. It's a special occasion." "Every table in that room was booked 2 months ago," I said. "It's not a matter of chairs. There is no space." "Unsure if you explain?" "I did explain," I said. "When I booked it in February. For 2 people. For our anniversary." He laughed, the kind of laugh that is not actually a laugh. He looked at Caleb. Caleb looked at the floor. His girlfriend had drifted toward the hotel bar and was studying the cocktail menu. The 2 friends were sitting on the lobby furniture, looking at their phones like they had already settled in. My mother-in-law appeared at his elbow. Surely they can make an exception, she said. They cannot, I said, but the hotel has a full restaurant on the main floor that takes walk-ins until 8. The food is excellent. She opened her mouth. I smiled and turned toward the elevator. Dinner was the most peaceful meal I have had in years. The wine cellar smelled like cedar and stone and something warm and faintly sweet I could not name. There were 8 tables, and ours was in the back corner under a low arch. The chef came out after the third course, a 40-something woman with flour on her sleeve, who talked about where she sourced the trout the way some people talk about something they love deeply and have never found a way to fully explain. Caleb held my hand across the table. We talked about things we had not talked about in months. We stayed through all 12 courses and ordered dessert wine at the end because we could. Upstairs somewhere, his brother was figuring out dinner at the main floor restaurant. Or not. It was not my problem. I found out what happened at 11 that night, when I was already in the soaking tub with a book, and Caleb came in from checking his phone with a look on his face that I recognized as the specific mix of exhausted and vindicated that happens when someone has finally seen something they already knew. His brother had gone to the restaurant. He had ordered for all 4 of them, steak and sides and a bottle of wine, and at the end of the meal had told the server to add it to the room charge for the Hargrove Anniversary Suite. The server had checked. There was no charge authorization for that name. His brother had argued. The server had called Adele. Adele had confirmed what I had already established at check-in. No third-party charges were authorized on our account under any circumstances. His brother's girlfriend had a card. It went through on the second try. The 4 of them, I learned later, had spent an hour and a half in the hotel parking lot trying to find accommodation. The motor inn 6 miles out had 2 rooms left, not adjoining. The friends took one. His brother and his girlfriend took the other. It cost them $340 for the night, which is a completely fair market rate for a holiday weekend in Asheville. I know what you were thinking. You were thinking, how did it get this far? How did you let this family take advantage of you for this long without doing something sooner? And I understand why you were thinking it, because I thought it too, for years. Lying awake at night running the math on what we had given and what we had gotten back and wondering what exactly I was afraid of. Here is the truth. It was not fear. It was a kind of hope that I am embarrassed to name now, because it sounds naive when I say it out loud. I kept believing that if I was generous enough, patient enough, quiet enough, eventually the dynamic would shift, that he would grow up, that she would stop crying at my kitchen table, that the word family would eventually mean something that went both directions. Behavioral researchers have a name for why we stay in these patterns longer than we should. When someone treats you badly most of the time, but occasionally, unpredictably, gives you something real, a genuine moment, a thank you that sounds like it means it, a holiday where nobody asks for anything, your brain treats that intermittent reward the same way it treats a slot machine. You keep pulling the lever. You keep telling yourself the jackpot is coming. You are not stupid. You are human. The mechanism is the same one that keeps people in casinos at 3 in the morning, and it is just as hard to walk away from. What Asheville did was break the machine. Not because of the dinner, not because of the hotel room, but because of what happened the following morning. I was on the balcony with coffee watching the mountains when Caleb's phone lit up with a text from his brother. I did not read it. Caleb read it and handed me the phone without saying a word. The text was long. It started with the bill. He said the dinner charge was unreasonable and that we should have just covered it as a courtesy since we were already at the hotel. Then it pivoted to the motor inn, which he described as an embarrassment and said we had essentially stranded them. Then it turned toward a number. He said that between the hotel room, the dinner, and the drive, the weekend had cost him just over $800 and that this was directly our fault for not accommodating them properly, and that it was the least we could do, given that he had made the drive all the way out to celebrate with us. He included a payment request, through Venmo, for $800. I sat with the phone in my hands for a full minute. The mountains were doing what they always do. The coffee was still hot. Caleb was watching me. I handed the phone back. "Decline it," I said. Caleb nodded. He declined it. Then he blocked his brother's number for the first time in his life, and I watched something release in his shoulders that I had not realized he had been carrying. We stayed 2 more days. We hiked a trail on the second morning that came out above the cloud line, and we stood there for a long time without saying anything, because some things do not need words. We ate breakfast at a diner in town where the biscuits were the size of my fist and the coffee came in a chipped mug, and nobody knew who we were or what we had done, and it was exactly right. The fallout happened without us. Caleb's mother called twice, and Caleb let the calls go to voicemail. She left messages using the word family, a combined total of 6 times, which I know because Caleb played them for me and I counted again, out of habit. His brother apparently told the extended family that we had abandoned him in a strange city, which is a remarkable reframing of what actually occurred. A cousin sent Caleb a text saying he should think about what kind of person he was becoming. Caleb replied once, clearly with the full sequence of events including the unreimbursed loans, the Vegas trip, the juicer, and the Venmo request for a trip that nobody had invited his brother on. Then he put his phone in his bag and we went to dinner. 2 months later, something shifted in the extended family conversation, quietly, the way things shift when the facts are finally allowed to breathe. An aunt called Caleb to say she had not realized the full picture. A cousin apologized for the text. Caleb's mother has not mentioned the word family to either of us since, which might be the longest she has ever gone. His brother has not paid back a single dollar of the $6,500 we are owed. I stopped expecting him to. The expectation itself was costing me something I needed back. What Asheville gave me was not revenge. I want to be precise about that, because revenge implies I wanted him to suffer, and I did not. What I wanted was for the math to stop being one-sided, and the only way to make that happen was to stop contributing to the imbalance, not loudly, not as a punishment, just a clean, logistical withdrawal. Here is your check, here is the door. There are 3 things I know now that I wish I had understood sooner. The first is that generosity without a boundary is not generosity. It is a subsidy, and subsidies do not teach people to stand on their own. Every dollar we handed over without consequence was a dollar that confirmed to him that the behavior worked. Stopping was the kindest thing we could have done, for him and for us. The second is that the people who use the word family to override your judgment are rarely talking about your family. They are talking about the family member they want to protect. When my mother-in-law sat at my table and cried, she was not thinking about me. She was thinking about him. That is not a crime. It is human. But it is not a reason for me to absorb the cost of her priorities. The third is that your peace is not a small thing. I know that sounds like something you see on a coffee mug, and I know it sounds easy when things are calm, but I mean it in the practical sense. Your peace is the thing that lets you do your job. Be present in your relationships, show up for the people who actually show up for you. Spending it to manage someone else's dysfunction is a real expenditure with a real cost, and you are allowed to stop paying it. The $6,500 is gone. I have accepted that. What came back to me instead was a Venmo request I declined and a mountain trail above the clouds and Caleb's hand in mine across a candlelit table and a biscuit in a chipped mug in a diner where nobody wanted anything from us. Some debts get paid in ways the person who owes them never intended. If you are sitting there right now with a mental list of what you have given and what has come back, I need you to know that you are not being petty, you are paying attention. And paying attention is the first step to finally, cleanly, separating the checks. I think about the mountain trail a lot, the way the clouds were sitting below us, not above, and how for a few minutes everything that had been loud and draining and one-sided just fell away. Caleb's hand in mine. Nobody asking for anything. That moment did not happen by accident. It happened because I finally stopped subsidizing someone else's chaos long enough to stand still. What I have learned about people like my brother-in-law is that they do not operate out of malice, not exactly. They operate out of a pattern that has never been interrupted. Every time someone covered for him, apologized on his behalf, or quietly absorbed the cost of his choices, he received the same message. This works. Keep going. The loans, the Vegas trip, the Venmo requests from a trip he invited himself on, none of it was random. It was the logical output of years of zero consequence. The cause was indulgence. The effect was escalation. It always is. What changed in Asheville was not that I got angry, I had been angry for years. What changed was that I stopped letting my anger sit quietly in my chest while my hands kept writing checks. There is a version of integrity that is not loud. It does not slam doors or send long texts or make speeches at dinner tables. It simply removes itself. It says, clearly and without drama, here is your bill, here is the door, I will not be covering this. That kind of integrity is harder than it sounds, because it requires you to tolerate someone else's discomfort without rushing in to smooth it over. It requires you to trust that you are not the one behaving badly, even when the people around you are acting like you are. That trust takes clarity, and clarity, I have found, is a muscle. It gets stronger the more you use it. When my mother-in-law pulled me aside and said the word family for what felt like the 1,000th time, I did not panic. I did not cave. I knew exactly what that word was being used to do, and I knew exactly what I was going to say, because I had finally gotten honest with myself about the math. $6,500, 3 loans, 0 repayments. That is not family loyalty. That is a one-way transaction dressed up in emotional language. Seeing it clearly, naming it plainly inside my own head. That was not cruelty. That was the most honest thing I had done in years. And then there is the part that nobody talks about enough, which is how much it costs to stay. Not financially. I mean, the quieter cost. The energy you spend managing your own resentment. The Sunday afternoons that go sideways because someone sent a text. The way you brace slightly every time a certain name appears on your phone. That cost is real and it compounds. And by the time I was standing in that hotel lobby watching my brother-in-law smile at me like I owed him something, I was running a deficit I had never consciously added up. Walking away was not weakness. It was the first financially and emotionally solvent decision I had made about him in years. I am not the same person I was before Asheville. I am quieter in some ways and clearer in others. I stopped explaining myself to people who were never actually listening. I stopped treating my peace like a resource I had to justify spending. What I kept is harder to name, but easier to feel. A kind of steadiness that comes from knowing that when something is wrong, I will say so, and when something is costing me more than it gives back, I will stop paying. The $6,500 is gone. I made peace with that. What came back was a trail above the clouds and a chipped coffee mug, and the specific quiet of a hotel room where nobody wanted anything from us at all. Some things are only worth what you decide they are, and some tabs are only closed when you are the one who closes them.